This is an international podcast transmission. Is anyone out there? If you're listening, you've reached the No Fixed Agenda podcast. Welcome, everyone, to No Fixed Agenda, presented by Bubs Naturals. I'm your host, Jeff Stoner. Omar cannot be with me today. I'm actually in Ireland on vacation and had to re-record the intro for this episode because we had a little bit of an issue with the audio file. So we're missing out on some of the banter between us. So you're welcome, I guess. I just get right into it here with this and want to thank you guys for listening into season 1. This is just a recap of some of our top episode moments throughout the first season. So if you want to listen back on any of those episodes, we've listed them in the show notes. So feel free to jump back into those. Season 2 comes out next week, and we've got a lot of stuff planned, and we hope you guys enjoy as we continue to grow this podcast season after season. So thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it. Appreciate all the listens, the support, the downloads, and yeah, let's keep going.
I want to ask you though, we can get into this later, but what are your top 5? And then I want to get into what my top 5 are. And why those? I think those would be like good things. And then maybe, or you know what? Maybe 5's too much.
I would say maybe the top 3.
3. Okay, 3.
Let's do
how about, can we do 3, maybe 4? Because I
tell you what, that's fine.
I'm ADHD, dude. I need, I need to fucking color the lines, bro. I need to color.
That's fine.
All right, good.
So again, it allows us to go back and see what has been very interesting to hear about people and to learn about people, and what kind of can help us move forward in the next season, because we got some really cool ones already set up for next season. I think this is going to be really fun. We're going to keep trying to grow this each and every time. Now that the Olympics are over, and this is gonna roll right into my top 3 here.
Okay.
Now and this is what made me think about the conversation is the Olympics are over.
So you're going to get into your top 3 right now?
I'm just going to roll right.
You're going to. Okay.
Do you mind?
Hey, dude.
Or do you
no, dude. Do your thing.
Do you want to just
no. You know what? I'm gonna let you roll with this one because it's almost like I'm interviewing you again, dude. So we're good.
All
right. This, by the way, you guys. If you guys don't know, this is This is how Jeff's tangents start. Okay.
This is the way my brain thinks. I get excited. Yeah. I get excited. Random thoughts.
This is a stoner tangent, you guys. Get ready. He's going to go over 3. He's going to give me 4, maybe 5, but okay.
No, we started thinking about, and I immediately knew I know what my top 3 would be, but it's one of those things like we start talking about it. I'm like, I just want to, I get excited. Man.
Yeah. So go. You go right ahead, buddy. Go right ahead.
Without any banter remaining for this intro piece of it, probably one of my favorites.
Starting from 3, okay.
I don't.
You want to start? You want to start?
No, I'm just going to label them, and I'm just going to.
I'm not going to go from top.
3, 2, 1.
No, okay. I'm going to go 3. I maybe go 4, 2, 4, 3, 2. You know what? You do you. I'll do me. Okay, go ahead.
Top 3. Again, Olympics being done, Mike Hazel being on. And I think what was really interesting with that is as I was watching some of the Olympics, especially track and field, and there was some moments in track and field where people fucking broke down because something didn't go right.
Yeah.
And it was amazing, I guess, mentally to go back and think about Mike's conversation about performance anxiety and how he was putting way too much pressure on himself.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I shared that with one of my clients the other day, dude. On Sunday, as a matter of fact, that same story.
Yeah. And so as I'm watching the Olympics and you see some of these people break down because something didn't go correctly, it's almost in that same zone of, I wonder how much performance anxiety they are having prior to that moment. And now how much has that even amplified even more because they still have another round to go or another event to go or another, so for me, talking to Mike and hearing that conversation piece, I think was really interesting from an athlete perspective and from a personal perspective of, you can see these top level athletes, but you don't really talk about the mental health side of things.
Yeah.
And I think that was really cool to me. And I knew some of that story with Mike, but hearing him talk about it and how it progressed through his military career and now into his regular career, it just shows that's things that kind of need to be talked about still and opened up a little bit more about. So that was...
I thought when we were going to have him on that podcast, I think we were going to just talk about the Olympians. And the biggest takeaway I had was not anything to do with the Olympics, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I still tell the story, like I just said on Sunday. There was a very impactful episode for sure. And there's stuff that we talked about on that episode that made me think like, whoa, dude, there's so much of this that I can apply to my own coaching approach, especially because we do a lot of competitions, right? Yeah. And there's the performing anxiety aspect of all the competitions, like heart beating, all that good jazz, and how to get one of my athletes to relax a little bit, dude.
Yeah,
it's cool. And then he was very humble. Because I don't know what Olympians are like because I don't know a whole lot of them.
Yeah,
but he really didn't care about the Olympics, dude.
No, it was interesting from that perspective. So,
all right, what's your number 2 or next one? And we won't go into that order.
So I'm gonna assume that maybe 1 or 2 of these kind of cross over with yours.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna assume. I'm gonna assume.
And if they do, I will let you know where they stand.
I'm gonna assume so. I think the very first conversation that we released, Stephen, was I think one of the best ways that we could have opened up this podcast.
Yeah.
I think one, Stephen is a friend of mine. I saw him go through, some of the bads and the goods of everything, not really knowing the full story. But being able to open up the podcast and hear both of you really dive into the addiction aspect, how it is a superpower, because that's probably one of the most strong, it's probably the strongest statement that that's on this podcast.
Yeah.
And it was that first episode.
Yeah.
And that was why it was so important for that conversation piece to be the first episode, is because that statement resonates, I think, more than anything else that we put through to this thing.
I think we got the most feedback on that episode, even from social media perspective and from people that we know that came in and just, oh my God, Omar, you don't understand how much you were speaking to me. Even people that reached out to us on social media that you were sending me messages. I don't know how to respond to this, Omar. I'm not the addict. You are.
Yeah.
Those are things that was so powerful. And to agree with you, that was my number 1.
Yeah.
That for me was the number 1.
Yeah.
And
I figured as much.
Yeah. And so it wasn't even about just the fact that we were talking about addiction. It was the purpose behind addiction, and that it felt so relaxing to me, dude. And me, let's be honest, I was horrible at the beginning and in regards to speaking on a podcast. And now I feel like that episode turned it for me a little bit, dude. It made me feel like, oh, I just need to talk about my shit, dude.
Yeah.
I need to be okay with shutting up in silence. I need to be okay with not having filler words. I need to be okay with all that stuff on top of sharing my story of my addiction with him and letting our audience know that addiction's not necessarily a bad thing if you're working a program of recovery.
Yeah.
And you could actually apply your addictive behaviors for a lot of good.
Yeah.
And so that was the number 1 thing that people came back to me on that episode over and over again. And people still talk to me about it, dude. And so it's cool. It was definitely my number 1 for sure.
Yeah. I think honestly, when we recorded it, I think we had already done 2 episodes, I think, prior to. Me personally, I saw the change in you from a conversationalist approached the whole entire podcast. I think that conversation, as you said, opened you up a little bit more as far as, okay, I can feel comfortable.
I can relax
knowing full well that this was a conversation I just had.
Yeah.
My third one, I think, and this is just more of a personal thing for me, I think the other one that was probably top of my list was our conversation we just had with Laura. Yeah. And mainly because my niece was on it.
Yeah.
And it was...
I figured that was going to be...
It was I don't know. It's one of those proud moment mentalities. You
were so excited just to have Lennon on the episode, dude. it was like a thing for you. I really want my niece to be on there.
Yeah.
I really want, so I know there's the backstory that we don't need to get into, but the fact that you have that relationship with your niece and nephew was cool, dude.
Yeah.
And I think that was the prideful moment for you.
It totally was. It was, and I told her moving into it that she didn't have to say anything at all.
Right.
Like, if she just wanted to sit and listen to the entire thing,
mm-hmm.
and I know full well that Laura is a 5th grade teacher, and that's in that zone of where she wants to be, is in the student's psychology aspect of it. I thought it was good that, hey, if nothing else, you don't have to say anything. Just come in and listen. And if you get something out of it, great. If you have a question, spit it out. Like, just jump right into it. And I think it was really cool because you helped her also, make her very comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Because you asked her why you're getting into it and made some jokes with her. And for me, it was, I could see her kind of loosening up the more and more the conversation went. Yeah. And she really doesn't talk a lot about that type of stuff, right? It's one of those things, it's brand new that she's wanted to do this over the last couple of years, but to be able to hear her really know exactly what she wants to do was really cool to me. So that would be my third one as far as, and it's again, a personal thing. And I thought it was really cool with that aspect of it. So it was
excited.
A
very moving episode, only because we started talking about doing education because it came up over and over again in all of our other episodes, right?
Yeah.
They had the topic of education and the fact that it just worked out. The stars aligned for your niece and nephew to be in town, and the topic of education. We had putting it off, dude.
Yeah.
We have access to all of these teachers in our communities, right? We're like. Maybe one day we'll put it on the calendar and actually do something about it. But it
happened to work out at the right moment.
Perfectly.
So those would be my top 3.
Yeah. So you already know my number 1.
I do.
Yeah.
Which again is great. And so, and I'm sure you've got 4 more to go. What would be the next one? I don't give a shit if you 1, 2, 3, 4, or if you're just balling them and you just tell me. I don't care. But
there were so many. But Justin True is my number 2. And
Jay True.
And only because the topic of mental health, I shot a video, and for those of you that don't know me, when I do a talking reel, it takes a lot out.
Yeah.
It's 20 takes 20 to 30 takes. And then I got to edit it, and then I send it to Suzette, and then I run it through CapCut. It's a pain in the ass. But all that to say is I took the time to shoot the reel because I felt very passionate about the topic of mental illness, right along the line of addiction for me. And the fact that we got into it and Justin was very transparent about his stuff. Yeah. And it's such a stigma. What's the word? It's so stigmatized to talk about mental illness because when people talk about mental illness, it's like something's wrong with you.
Yep.
And it doesn't necessarily, yes, there's something you're struggling with, but mental illness is just like almost like addiction in some sort. If you can overcome it and you actually get the help that you need, and maybe you need to be on medication, or maybe you find the right therapist or psychologist and the right support group and have the tools to get through it, it's a powerful thing, man. And I think in that episode, we talked about that, Justin opening up about his friend and how it came full circle, dude, with his mom and all that stuff, dude. I was like, wow, that was like a powerful episode. And I know there were people listening to that episode and going, I'm still not comfortable talking about it.
Yeah. And
that is why it's my number 2, because I think we could shoot 10 episodes on it, to be honest with you. And this whole podcast would become the mental illness podcast. Right? That's not what we want to happen. But I think that was my number 2 for that reason alone, because people don't know that it's not a proud moment. Like, you trying to take your life, it's not a proud moment.
Yeah. I mean, it was very powerful to hear. I've heard his conversation or his story a few times, but every single time I hear it, it just is like what the fuck moment, in a sense of, I cannot believe that you went through that, or your brother put you through it, your dad put you through it, and some of the stuff that your mom has had to go through because of some of the other mental illness
situations around her story. But yeah, that's a powerful conversation.
Yeah.
So that's really cool that you brought that one up. I really did love that conversation. I'm going to go throw a side note out there. A side note is we'll have Justin on again for a different conversation, completely aside from mental health.
This man is crazy. Literally.
It's crazy. And I know he's posted this on social media, and I know he's not on social media right now for a particular reason. So the next time he comes on, which hopefully will be in October or November, depending on when he's allowed to talk about it. That conversation is going to be legit, and you guys are going to really love that conversation because he's done a lot of stuff in his career as far as athletic stuff goes, but this right now that he's on right at this moment is one of those things where you're like, what have you gotten yourself into? And people are going to really enjoy it. And so if you follow along with Justin, you know where I'm going with that, but I don't know how much is supposed to be out there. So we'll just leave that as a cliffhanger, but he will be on the episode here in the next season. And we'll talk a little bit more about some shenanigans with him. A little bit more fun conversation next time.
Shenanigans.
All right.
And I want to make sure that I'm being clear. I prioritized mine because of my own selfish reasons, but all of the episodes were great in a lot of ways. And I have had so much fun doing them, but I'm sharing the ones that my top 4 because these are the ones that I felt make the most impact into the community. And that's the reason why I'm doing this, right? Is to make the impact into the community. And Shawntae, dude, the Handels ice cream. Dude,
which is weird because I didn't know where that conversation was going to go.
Right.
And I even told you that. I was like, hey, listen, we're going to bring in Shawntae. She's marketing manager for Handels here in North County, San Diego. And we're like, we're going to talk about ice cream.
Ice cream the whole time.
And I know you'll get into your point of why you chose this, but it was a really cool conversation from the fact of how much she cares and the Handels brand cares about the kids,
our youth
coming up. All right, I'll let you go.
And that was it. That was you nailed it, dude. Yeah. I think you and I have had several conversations about how our youth is soft and how they need to go through some hard shit and how the reason why I want to talk about education, bro.
It's an entitlement gen right now, right? And hey, how can I get this? And what's the access to me right away?
Correct. And so Shawntae changed. I truly feel like Shawntae changed the way we looked at our youth, you and I both. We both sat back and were like, fuck.
Damn it.
Like, shit. She's right. Oh my God. I didn't even think about this. But she's an amazing individual. And because of the way that conversation went, I met somebody that we're hopefully going to have later on as well that reminded me so much of her.
Yeah.
And her passion to serve people and her passion to serve our youth and to grow our youth and give them life skills, dude. That was so powerful to me.
Yeah.
And yes, it was about ice cream. Yes, we talked about Handels, but we more so talked about our youth. And honest to God, the reason why I like to want to make an impact on the community around me is because that's going to be my legacy, dude. Our legacy, dude, if you think about it. And so it starts with our youth, dude. Like, we're all going to be gone one day, dude. And there's a generation behind us that hopefully we're going to equip with the information that we put out on this podcast. And I think that's what that episode did for me. Ironically, it was about fucking ice cream. You know?
I mean, you can't go wrong talking about ice cream. But the fact that she turned the whole entire conversation and our thought process around just with one or two statements, it was like, oh, okay. This is a lot of things that we didn't really consider, I guess, from that. I'm there now to support. Like, I want to be able to support the Handels brand because I know what the backstory is and what they do for the community and the kids now. So we don't really mind go stand in line for 15, 20 minutes just to get some ice or two. Or
what do they call? What was the assortment ones that they were calling them? There was like you can get 6 or 4 different flavors.
Oh, it's like a taste your fuck out.
I don't know, dude, but that's probably what you get if I know you. You're probably a little.
I usually just go with one flavor.
Really?
Yeah. It usually has to do with chocolate and peanut butter.
Oh God! All right, my number 4, and it was
Go right
what? Yeah, I'm gonna skip chocolate and peanut butter. You're so plain, bro. Like it's so white. But it was a toss up. This is why I say 5, and because they were selfish, right? And so these are my selfish ones. That's why they're lower on the podium. But I'm gonna say that number 4 was my interview of you and your origin story, bro.
Okay.
And
thank you.
Yeah. Dude, it's just, we've built a relationship, you and I.
Yeah.
And it started off with you just walking by the gym saying, yeah, we've known each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I never really knew like some of that other stuff. And I think the people that know you don't know your origin story. And I know you're super freaking humble, and I know you're super freaking like, you don't like to talk about things and all that stuff. But I think the audience got an idea of why this podcast is so fun because of that, and who you are, and the things that you've done for me, and the things that you've done for your own community, and where that comes from. I think so many people are going to resonate with that story, of your story of coming from a small town. Yes, they're going to resonate with my story and me coming from the hood and all this other stuff. And I hope that my story would inspire somebody that's coming from my environment to take their head poke their head out of the hood. There's more than just a 5-block radius. And the same for you. Like, I hope that somebody comes across our podcast and says, well, that small town boy can actually come out of that small town and make it out and do something great and do something meaningful for their community. And I think that's why it was, and the selfish part of it is that people understand our dynamic now.
I've gotten a lot of questions.
I did not know that about him.
So to answer those questions in a grander scheme, yes, I was telling the truth. 1, I'm terrified of horses. 2, yes, I did graduate college with a 1.6.
But he graduated.
I graduated.
Suzette was like, we were listening to the episode on the way down to the Padre game, bro. She was cheering you on, bro.
A win's a win. And I don't know how that works with today's colleges and if that's even possible. But yes, 1.6, that is true.
Uh-huh.
Horses. So,
and you're connected.
And apparently, based on the social media posts I put out, I'm connected. But it took me a minute to remember where that statement came from. But yes, I am connected.
All right. And then there's 2 that are lining up were my 5th one. And that's...
Oh, so this is a
twofer. This is a twofer.
So you got 6, actually.
Dude, no, because it's twofer, because there's 2 people that I work with. All right. Or have worked with.
Okay. All right.
And
okay.
And
are these honorable mentions, or are they actually 5 and 6?
Dude, okay, let's go with 5 and 6, but they're both in the 5 slot. How's that?
Okay, right. I don't believe in ties. It's fine.
People always tie for 3rd.
That's why I can't get into soccer very much. Okay, so you've got a tie.
So there's a tie.
Okay.
And it's our conversation with Vera.
Okay.
And my conversation with Bliss.
Yeah, I figured that was going to be there.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, if Bliss is listening to this, which I hope she is, because I'm going to beat her if she's not. But she's my sis, man. I think so many people know us from social media and all of the things, but she made a post the other day. We were working out, and we just have a funny way of bringing out the best versions of ourselves when we're around each other.
Yeah.
And I think if anybody can get anything out of that episode is to surround yourself with people that can do that for you.
Yeah.
And that's why I surround myself with you, and I surround myself with her and the other people on the podcast that have been that we have relationships with. And we are the sum total of the people we hang around with in our life experiences. And so you hang around with people that are like-minded and that are amazing individuals that are hungry to grow, like Vera and Bliss. And that's why it was so meaningful for us to... Bliss is probably mad that she's not number 1. I think Vera's okay with being in the top 5. But to all that to say is you could have different points of view, different aspects. But if the people that are around you are not making you or helping you become the best version of yourself, then why the fuck do you have them around you?
True.
And so that's why those 2 episodes are tied for 5th, in my opinion, because I feel like Vera's a great coach. And I think Vera shared a lot of why she is the warden and why people are either afraid of her and love her to death. And I think the conversation with Bliss understands like her upbringing, her story is very public, and how she came to become one of the number 1 online coaches in the industry was because of who she is and her story. And then Vera, just her passion to serve people in a very orthodox way. Right. Yes. And so it's like people just, and it comes from a place where she's, her stories and her upbringings as well. So both those individuals make me want to strive to be a better person. And that's why I like to have them around. And that's why they were so meaningful to have them on the podcast. So.
Yeah. Well, Bliss was actually the first
recorded episode
we ever did.
Yeah. And I think people were going to, Omar's definitely going to be, that's going to be the number one episode.
So if you go back and listen to that episode, which I don't really remember what episode number that was, but it was probably 3 or 4, right. Or maybe 4 or 5. I don't know. But you could definitely tell the difference between the way you approach a conversation now and the way you approach this conversation then. You definitely, there was the hesitation, everything. Yeah. And we go back to that whole entire thing where Steven's episode was really the one that kind of helped you open up even more to this podcast. But I think that one's just important because it was the very first one we ever did. Yeah. And that's really what kicked this thing off, even though it didn't come out as a first episode. And it was really cool to be there, experience that, and see that relationship again and just get this thing started. And it was awesome.
And I think that was why it's numbered in the top 5 also, because it would have been so good, dude. Bliss and Vera both make me want to be a better person and make me strive to be a better person. Bliss will want me to say that she's my superhero. There, I said it, Bliss, so you can get us out there. But reality is, it was a comfort thing.
Yeah,
to have Bliss as the first recorded episode, and it was like my interview of you, and that's the same thing that I felt with Vera. Like, you guys all together, those you three that are in my tribe that I lean on heavily, that you guys support me unconditionally, make me a better person, and that's why you guys are in the top 5.
It'd be interesting is to, if you could go back in time to actually interview me first, interview her back where you interviewed me a couple of weeks ago, and see what the difference would be in the way you approached it.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we can't put the toothpaste back in the bottle, but I thought about that as we're talking, is like how, because of the brother-sister relationship with you guys, it would be interesting to hear the way you approach that conversation now versus then. And I'm sure Bliss will be on the show again in the near future to talk about other things. But to me, it's just like that, being that first one and being how close you guys are. And then so to have both of us in your top 5 and the way that the conversations are now approached and the way how comfortable you are with everything. Yeah. I just thought about that. It'd be interesting to see how that would play out.
Yeah. I think it would be way different, dude.
Yeah.
It would be way different. I was so nervous. The Bliss aspect is I had to tell myself that I was just in the gym having a conversation with her.
I know Bliss intimidates you.
No, I wouldn't say she intimidates me. She more annoys me, but that's besides the point. Just like you and your tangents sometimes do.
Bliss, I'm in your corner.
Again, the fucking theme of white people ganging up on me. What the fuck? But those are my top 5. If you want to say it's 6, then great.
That's fine. Again, that's cool, man. Honorable mentions, ties, whatever you do. I really don't.
Hey, you know what? I was raised with no kid left behind, dude. I got a participation trophy. Okay.
Okay. That's another conversation. Maybe that's a random thought conversation, because I got some
dude, no,
points on that.
Let's end it before you start going down that. Okay. Let's end it.
We will. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you for listening in in the first season. We've got a ton of stuff coming up in the second season. I think you're really going to enjoy the episodes. And if you get a chance to go back and listen to any of these episodes that we mentioned, please do. They each had their own point of interest for a lot of people. And I think you can pull something out of any of those episodes or any episodes we've done so far. Yeah. Again, thank you guys for a really great first season. We thank you for listening in. We really appreciate it. We got a lot more to come. So stay tuned. This has been an international podcast transmission of No Fixed Agenda presented by Bubs Naturals. You can rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcast episodes. NFA, over and out.